The governor is here for his job interview with you.
This was a time that needed leadership. 3 largest wildfires in the history of our state. Global pandemic.
Jared Polis defends his record and answers criticism that he's changed his positions when convenient.
I wish it was as easy as some of my opponents make it out to be, of course.
The police chief who suddenly left his job in Denver is hinting at a new one, mayor. And his pitch to conservatives suggests he thinks he's the right man in a race full of left-leaning women. And there are gardens growing with the hope of helping families with their energy bills. That and our extended interview with the governor on Next. There are new gardens going in around Denver even this time of year, because these are gardens where energy is harvested and then donated to low-income families. Our Anusha Roy starts us off with a look at just how much of an impact this effort can make on green energy goals and saving families money.
On the roof of the National Western Complex are now rows of solar panels. It is the first of 11 solar gardens that will be built in neighborhoods, at rec centers, and Denver Public Schools properties. Some of the energy will power the buildings they are on top of. Some will help the community, like the Denver Housing Authority.
Anything that we can do to reduce the electrical bills for Denver Housing Authority leaves that agency more funding to provide services to their residents.
It will also help individual families, saving them on average $700 a year.
Bill reduction specifically, we anticipate at least 300 households will be able to be accommodated in our program.
It's an admittedly small number when you look at how many families live in areas considered vulnerable to climate change.
Our more climate vulnerable communities follow geographically what is often referred to as the inverted L. And that also happens to match up with the historical redlined neighborhood.
Energy Outreach Colorado estimates on the low end, 100,000 people could use help with their energy bill and for the clean energy transition in the city. The solar gardens are just one small part of a series of projects to provide that kind of assistance, as well as close the gap left by Xcel's efforts.
Customers being able to really use 80% of their energy will come from renewable resources by 2030. But our carbon reduction, again, will be at least 85 is what we are forecasting.
Xcel is building out the transmission system it needs to move more renewable energy like wind and solar across the state, and still getting proposals to significantly transition the grid.
Really analyzed all of the fuel sources over time. What we've seen is the cost of renewable resources is now as competitive, if not more affordable, than some of the more traditional. And so while I don't know exactly what the bill impact is going to be.
No community, no city can ever reach its climate goals if we abandon an entire portion of our population.
And that's why you see a whole bunch of other programs helping people swap out inefficient furnaces and water heaters and adding solar panels to homes as well. Now, Xcel said building out that transmission system, it's estimated to cost $2 billion. Xcel will be getting bids on how much it will cost to transition the grid to clean energy. They're expecting more info on that in the spring, so we're going to have to wait 6-7 months before we learn more about it.
I just kind of assume every time Xcel announces one of these big projects that we're going to pay for it in our bills.
Right. I mean, that's the first thing that I asked them, and they basically said that once the projects are done, they go back to the Public Utilities Commissions, and that's when they start talking about rates. If what people are currently paying will cover the project costs, do people's bills need to go up to cover those costs? And that means right now they don't actually have that answer.
No decision yet. All right. Thank you, Anusha. Denver's former police chief is teasing a run for mayor, and he's positioning himself ideologically kind of to the right of the current field. And he did so in an appearance on Conservative Talk Radio. It was billed as Paul Pazin's first live interview since he abruptly retired a few weeks ago following some record police brutality settlements.
I'm still weighing my options. I still want to serve our community and make a positive impact. It's a flattering offer. I guess I'd ask you, what about Aaron? Would I get your vote at least? Would I get one vote?
Talk radio host Aaron Lapidus then praised Pazin as a hero and the light. In 2019, Conservative Talk Radio backed mayoral candidate Jamie Gillis in her failed challenge to Mayor Michael Hancock. Denver's 2023 mayoral election in the spring is a nonpartisan election as always, and Democrats outnumber Republicans 4-1 in the city. If Pazin joins this race, he would likely be vying for support of conservatives with former chamber president Kelly Brough. There are 3 prominent progressive women who are also in the race: City Councilwoman Debbie Ortega, State Representative Leslie Herod, and Community Leader Lisa Calderon.
And a bit of a taste of winter for us today. Some parts of the metro area picking up as much as 6 inches worth of snowfall. But the big concern for most of us tonight, we were talking about gardens just a couple minutes ago, and this is going to be the big issue. Our first hard freeze of the season likely for us tonight. That means temperatures dropping down to the mid to upper 20s. A hard freeze means temperatures 28 or lower. Long story short here, folks, bring inside those plants out there, and also, of course, keep in mind your pets as well. 7-day forecast. Once we get past that, those temperatures rise back up into the 60s for not only this upcoming weekend, but into next week as well.
Chris Bianchi, thank you, sir. The candidates for governor really couldn't be more different in their outlook and approach. Democratic Governor Jared Polis describes himself these days as a happy dad, quick to celebrate Colorado's quality of life and a list of promises he says he's kept over 4 years in office. Republican challenger Heidi Ganahl now describes herself as a mad mom who talks about Colorado as a crime-ridden, drug-infested hellscape in need of a conservative makeover. Polis agreed to debate Ganahl here and also to discuss his views in depth for you to hear. Ganahl declined the debate, and she has not agreed to an in-depth interview in the year since she joined the race. Tonight, our extended interview with the governor begins with Colorado's challenges. You know that voters will often look for fresh leadership during challenging times, and you've acknowledged that this state has real problems with rising crime and fentanyl deaths and the high cost of living. You and your team have had your shot at those issues. Why shouldn't voters give somebody else a chance?
You know, I think the people of Colorado are really happy with the leadership that we've shown. This was a time that needed leadership. 3 largest wildfires in the history of our state, global pandemic. And look, we lost 14,119 people so far in the pandemic. I check that every day. But we have the 8th lowest fatality rate of any state. We had one of the shortest economic shutdowns. Our kids got back to school ahead of most other states. So we have a lot to be proud of as a state of how we came together. And I've always had data-driven, positive leadership, trying to get good information out to people. And I believe that the work we've done so far, the work we've done to make preschool and kindergarten free, the work we've done to save people money on health care. Yes, there's a lot of work ahead. We'll talk about the next 4 years, but capping out-of-pocket costs on insulin, reinsurance, bringing down rates 20% in the exchange, shows that we have the proven ability, and I have the experience to help lead the state for the next 4 years and bring lots of good new ideas that will improve the quality of life for Coloradans.
So we're both dads. Your kids are a little bit older than mine, and this is kind of a tough time to be a kid in Colorado. You have the mental health crisis that kids are going through these days. There's fentanyl showing up in schools. You've got the learning loss and behavioral issues in schools from the pandemic. You've got the danger to developing brains from high-potency marijuana. Are you treating this like the emergency that a lot of people think it is?
Yeah, first, I mean, parents should talk to their kids. Even ours, 11 and 8, I said, don't ever take, Advil, Tylenol from a stranger, not unless it's, purchased at a pharmacy, your parent gives it to you. I mean, people need to talk to their kids. I mean, they might think that they're taking something for a headache and it could be laced with fentanyl. This is a national plague. This is a poison. This is killing too many people. And we're taking action. As you know, I signed a bipartisan bill that took some important steps on combating fentanyl poisoning. So what does that mean? I wish it was as easy as some of my opponents make it out to be. Of course, criminal sentencing, that's part of it, and we need tougher criminal sentencing, and I signed a bill that has it. We're one of the first states in the nation to have a felony for possessing pill presses, which are used to lace other products with fentanyl. But it's also about more than that, right? It's also about getting testing strips. A lot of people don't realize that most people who are poisoned with fentanyl don't know they're taking fentanyl. How do we make sure that we can detect it earlier? So if it's a Percocet, if it's something else, it's laced with fentanyl before a death occurs rather than after. And just as importantly, how do we make sure we have more access to addiction treatment and recovery for people who need it, to get off of their dependency, whether it's alcohol or drugs? I think almost every Coloradan, myself included, has had friends or extended family that have dealt with substance abuse, right? I've had some family members, extended family, that have overcome it, regained their dignity. I know that everybody can, but they often need help to do it. And that's why we're working with the City of Aurora and Arapahoe County to add 500 beds for mental health and addiction recovery at the Ridgeview campus at the edge of Aurora. And we need to do a lot more as a state.
When we return, I try and fail to get the governor to explain his flip-flop on your taxpayer Bill of Rights refunds. He does explain how he went from lowering penalties for fentanyl to bringing them back after drug deaths soared.
I don't think there's any perfect piece of policy, Kyle. I wish it was as easy as just saying, let's just classify this as a different offense and it goes away.
The governor on Colorado's drug crisis, next. Democratic Governor Jared Polis had quite the election year change of heart about your taxpayer bill of rights refunds. Polis went from trying to permanently end them a few years ago to celebrating this year. He renamed them the Colorado Cashback, trying to claim credit for sending them out. Polis would not give us a straight answer on whether he still wants to end those refunds permanently. And I'm not going to insult your intelligence by playing 2 minutes of him evading my questions on the topic. So we return to our interview with the governor on the subject of the opioid crisis and Polis' changing views on how to punish fentanyl possession. Harm reduction has really kind of been stigmatized in the political conversation in the last couple of years. I think I recall a previous conversation where you told me you don't like the idea of supervised drug injection sites like some other cities have done. What do you think about harm reduction more generally, and have you given any more thought to the idea of supervised injection sites?
I'm skeptical of these free-for-alls, these open-air, drug markets. What I think you do is you pair the concept of harm reduction with tough criminal penalties for people who are selling fentanyl and dealers and networks and organized crime, right? So when you're talking about the addict side, right, you've got to find a way where they can regain their dignity, regain their lives, and recover. And people can, right? I mean, look at the inspiring story of Brittany Pedersen's mother, right? And she talks about this, so I'm not out of turn talking about this. Her mother overcame opioid abuse and several overdoses that she was hospitalized for. And I have other, friends that have overcome this, and people need help to do that. But look, I think when the concept of harm, when you're looking at, for instance, some of the methadone and other alternatives, people can use other substances to successfully get off of opioids, right? And that is used, the increased accessibility of methadone to help reduce addiction. It's a technique. I mean, ideally, right, in the ideal world, you're not dependent on any drugs. But in the real world, I think as long as you wed getting tough with some of the proven concepts from harm reduction, you can reduce the overall drug abuse rate in our state.
Everyone in the bipartisan group that was involved in the 2019 bill to lower the penalties on fentanyl has gotten pounded for it this election cycle, you included. You were then part of the bipartisan effort this year to raise the penalties again. Did you make a mistake? Did you not listen to the right people in 2019? Did you not have the right information? How do we go from one end to the other?
Yeah, look, I think that what I've shown in my 4 years of leadership is that I'm data-driven, and I always want to do what works for Colorado. So just show me what works. I don't think there's any perfect piece of policy, Kyle. I'm always open to tweaking, improving what we do. Of course, we do need to do additional improvements on fentanyl, and we need additional sentencing, we need additional drug treatment. There's more work to do. The bipartisan bill was a big first step. But, you look at states that have always had felony level penalties for fentanyl, and neighboring states, Arizona, felony level, twice the fentanyl death rate, is opioid, I should say, they don't break out fentanyl, twice the opioid death rate of Colorado. New Mexico, 60% higher death rate. I wish it was as easy as just saying, let's just classify this as a different offense and it goes away. That is in many ways, if that's all you offer, you're kind of giving up on the hard work. Maybe that's part of it, and I agree it is, tougher sentences. More and better policing, dealing with homelessness and addiction, getting testing out there. These are all parts of a comprehensive strategy to end the scourge of fentanyl in Colorado and in the United States, where we also need to have an honest conversation about border security, where a lot of fentanyl is entering through our southern border.
Governor Polis' critics say he's too heavy-handed with regulations on business, whether it's oil and gas or during the worst of the pandemic. But when it comes to getting involved in the business dispute that's had the Avs and Nuggets blacked out on TV for years,
I don't think that telling the private sector what to do is the answer.
That doesn't mean the governor isn't privately involved in trying to end that sports blackout. That's next. There are the questions that I'd like to ask politicians, and then there are the questions that next viewers say that they would really like an answer to. So this is kind of different, but I can't tell you how many people have asked us over the last couple of years whether state leaders could and should do something to end the years-long blackout of Avs and Nuggets games on TV. So you know what? I asked Governor Jared Polis if he's been doing something about this behind the scenes. You're one of the few people in the state that could probably get Stan Kroenke, owner of the Avs and Nuggets, on the phone, and could likewise get on the horn with executives at Comcast. Have you called them up to talk about this 3-year blackout, or is that not a governor's role? I have. I've talked to them both separately about it. I've talked to Comcast more. I've talked to some of Stan's folks. I've talked to Stan not about this, but about other things. But I will follow up. It's a clash. It's bigger than us.
I've urged both sides to say, let's just find a way so we can watch our favorite teams. It will get resolved, but it's really frustrating because we love our sports here in Colorado. We're a big sports town, you know, whether it's the Avs, whether it's the Broncos. I'm a huge Rockies fan.
Sorry.
Yeah, you know, but sorry for the Broncos too. We still maybe got to turn it around.
Is it a role for government to be involved in this kind of thing?
In an encouraging people to work things out kind of way. I always shy away from kind of the bullying side of things. I don't think that telling the private sector what to do is the answer, but trying to get the stakeholders to work together, to talk together, absolutely. I made some public comments on this as well in the past. I think the ultimate deal is likely to be closer to what Comcast is seeking. And that's nothing against our ownership group. They're great. It's just distribution and media are changing, Kyle. And I hope our sports teams everywhere across the country, including Colorado, can build competitive models. But they're not going to be like the media models of 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So I think that recognition is growing. I think they'll work it out, and I'm going to do what I can to edge them along.
Last question.
You've been watching portions of our extended conversation with Governor Polis, and you can see that full interview now on the Next N9 News YouTube channels. We should note that for more than a year, we have asked Republican gubernatorial Heidi Ganahl to discuss her views here in depth. She's not agreed to do that. We should note as well that Governor Polis accepted our invitation to debate Ganahl on 9 News. Ganahl declined. That debate would have been tonight. When we return, a look ahead to tomorrow night, the debate in Colorado's more competitive key race, U.S. Senate. That's next. One more debate. Our unprecedented series of 6 televised debates this political season wraps up tomorrow. Democratic Senator Michael Bennet and Republican challenger Joe O'Dea will debate live from CSU at 7 p.m. here on 9 News. Next, we'll be on as usual at 6 o'clock. David writes in tonight, says, I feel like I get a much better feel for where the candidates stand regardless of party, and that's all I could ask for. Well, you saying that, David, is all that our crew could ask for. See you tomorrow for that big debate.